All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something that completely flips our idea of success on its head. We're going to identify a critical bug in our thinking, a deep-seated flaw that keeps even the highest performers chained to one single spot on the map. And then, we're going to show you how to install a brand new mental OS, one built for a life without borders.
So, let's start with this quote because it just gets right to the point. You aren't settled, you are simply vulnerable to the entropy of a single location. Think about that. We've all been taught that having a fixed address, a local office, that means security, right? Stability. But what if that's a dangerous illusion? In the world we live in now, that stability is actually a massive vulnerability. It makes you fragile. It leaves you exposed to all the chaos that can happen in just one place.
So, what is this bug we're talking about? Well, the source material gives it a name: the static infrastructure delusion. And listen, this isn't just some business jargon. It's a fundamental flaw in our neural OS. The software running in our heads that dictates how we build our lives, our careers, our empires. Let's really dig into what this delusion is all about. Okay, here's the definition. It's this deep-down belief that your business and even your life needs a fixed physical location to be, real or stable. It's that feeling that for something to count, you have to be able to physically touch it. The big office in the city, the house in that one neighborhood. That's the bedrock of success, right? Well, that kind of thinking is a complete relic. It's from a totally different era.
So this really paints a picture of two completely different mindsets. On one side, you've got the tethered architect. This person is brilliant. They've built an incredible empire, but it's physically bolted down. It's stuck in one city, one office, one time zone. Then on the other side, you have the global outlier. This person isn't playing the same game. They don't need to be physically present. They've achieved what's called systemic ubiquity, meaning their whole system just works seamlessly, no matter where they are in the world.
This is a perfect way to think about it. Your empire is basically a desktop app trying to survive in a cloud-native world. You know what I mean, right? A desktop app has to be installed on one specific computer. It's clunky, it's isolated, it can't adapt. But a cloud app, it's everywhere at once. You can access it from any device. It's always updated. If your life and your business are still running like that old desktop software, you're just playing an outdated game with rules that don't apply anymore.
So this delusion, this way of thinking, it doesn't just hold you back. It actively traps you. It builds a cage around you. And look, it might be a really nice cage, comfortable, well-decorated, but it's still a cage. And the toughest part to swallow? You're the one who built it, brick by brick.
And here's how that cage works. It's called the proximity trap, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a state where your whole system is fragile because all the important parts have to be in the same room to get anything done. Just think about it for a second. If you, your key people, and your most important resources all need to be in the same physical space to create value, your whole operation is walking on a tightrope. One little local disruption, a power outage, a flight cancellation, anything, and the whole thing can just grind to a halt.
So what are the symptoms of being caught in this trap? Well, you feel it as operational drag. That's when your brain power is totally wasted on managing physical stuff, offices, commutes, logistics, instead of focusing on big-picture global strategy. You also feel it as time zone dependency. Your growth is literally handcuffed to the 8 or 10 hours you happen to be awake in one single location. All of this just leads to a system that's completely rigid, unable to bend or adapt.
And this all leads to a really crucial, maybe tough, realization. You aren't successful, you are just locally optimized. That success you've worked so hard for? Yeah, it's real, but it's only built to work in one specific environment. It's like you've become the king of one single hill, while there's a whole world of mountain ranges out there waiting to be explored. You've basically built yourself a very high-paying job that you can never ever quit, because again, you're the one who built the cage.
Okay, but here's the good news. There is a way out of the cage. It's not about working harder, though. It's about a fundamental upgrade to your thinking. It's time to install a whole new blueprint. We're talking about operating not from a mailing address, but from the cloud. And here it is. This is the big aha moment. The entire solution comes down to one single, powerful idea. You have to decouple value from time and space. That's it. To build something that's truly resilient, truly scalable, you have to architect it so that creating value has absolutely nothing to do with where you are or what time it is.
Now, let's be super clear about this. This is so much more than just remote work. Remote work is often just taking the same old office job and doing it from your house. No,
This is what we call systemic decoupling. It's the next stage of evolution. It's about building systems that run asynchronously, systems that run on clear protocols, not on people being near each other. Your office is no longer a building. Your office is wherever your mind is processing information.
And when you install this new OS, it changes everything. I mean, everything. Even the way you think about movement. You're not traveling anymore. You're not a tourist just taking a vacation. Instead, every time you change your location, it's a strategic move. You are redeploying your single most valuable asset, your focus, your attention. You become the architect, strategically moving your queen across the global chessboard.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? How do we go from concept to reality? Well, the source material lays out a really clear, actionable framework. It's called the Nomad Protocol. Think of this as the step-by-step installation guide for your new mental OS.
The protocol has 3 main steps. It's pretty straightforward. Step 1 is to run a decoupling audit. You go through your entire system and you find every single physical dependency, every single thing that ties you to a place, and you figure out how to virtualize it. Step 2, build cloud-native infrastructure. This means moving all your banking, your data, your communications, everything onto global platforms that don't care where you are. And finally, step 3, you perform a systemic mobility test. Go operate from a new time zone for 30 days. If something breaks, great. You just found a bug in your system. Now you can fix it, refactor, and make the whole thing stronger.
So this all leaves us with one final and I think really critical question to ask yourself. Your empire is built. You've put in the work. But is it modular? Could you, right now, pick up the entire thing and move it to the other side of the planet in 24 hours without losing a single dollar in revenue? Is what you've built a heavy monument fixed in stone, or is it a dynamic, modular system truly built for this cloud-native world? Because honestly, the answer to that question is going to determine your entire future.
All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down one of the biggest, most invisible traps that holds back top performers. This idea that you have to be somewhere specific to be successful. This is all about cutting the cord to a physical location so you can unlock real global freedom.
You know, let's just start with a punch to the gut. This quote right here, it forces you to ask a really uncomfortable question. Are you actually building a global empire? Or have you just gotten really, really good at winning in a very small room? We're about to dig into that.
So the root of this whole problem is what the source material calls the tethered architect's delusion. And that's exactly what it is, a delusion. It's this flawed belief that having a physical office, a home base, makes you stable. But actually, it does the exact opposite. It's a bug in the system.
And here's that delusion spelled out, the static infrastructure delusion. It's this belief that you need a physical spot, an office, a headquarters, for your business to be real or secure. But in today's world, that's just not true. Tying yourself to one spot doesn't make you stable, it actually makes you incredibly vulnerable.
I love this analogy. Think about it. The old way is like a desktop app. It's bolted to one machine in one city, stuck in one time zone. It only works if you're sitting right there. But the new reality? It's got to be cloud native. The whole point is to build a system that works just as well whether you're in New York, Tokyo, or on a boat in the middle of nowhere. Your GPS coordinates should be totally irrelevant. Okay, so what's the actual damage here? Let's talk about the very real, very high cost of being changed to a location. We're going to look at the symptoms, the warning signs that your system is way more fragile than you think.
And this brings us to the core concept, the proximity trap. Here's the deal. Your system is fragile if your key people, your leaders, your top talent, have to physically be in the same room to get things done. It relies on what the source calls synchronous physical energy. Think about that. If everyone goes home, or the leader is out of office, the value creation just stops. That's a huge weak spot.
And when you're caught in that trap, this is the result. Total, systemic rigidity. Your whole operation becomes stiff, inflexible. You can't adapt, you can't pivot. It's like building a beautiful glass sculpture. It looks impressive, but one little push and the whole thing could shatter.
So how do you know if you're rigid? Well, you'll see these 3 symptoms. First, operational drag. This is a big one. All your mental energy, your high-performance mindset, gets wasted on managing physical stuff, like leases and office politics, instead of focusing on global strategy. That's a fatal error. Second, you get time zone dependency. Your entire empire can only grow during the 8 hours you happen to be awake. And third, you just can't pivot. You want to jump on a huge opportunity overseas? Too bad. You're metaphorically, and maybe literally, signed into a lease with your old reality. Let this one sink in for a second. This is the brutal truth of the proximity trap. You think you've built this amazing, free empire, but what you've actually built is a really high-paying job. A job you can't ever quit because you're the one who built the cage.
Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. There is a way out. To go from being a local prisoner to a global player, you have to level up to what's called asynchronous systems. This is the great escape. It's about fundamentally decoupling the value you create from any specific time or place.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. You're shifting from a world where work stops when the lights go out to a world where the system runs on its own. It's about relying on smart protocols, not physical proximity. An asynchronous system doesn't care if you're asleep or on a plane. It just keeps running, keep creating value, because that's what it was designed to do.
And just to be super clear, we are not just talking about remote work here. That's just a small piece of the puzzle. This is about systemic decoupling. It's a grand strategy. It's about designing an entire operation, your team, your money, your mission, to be fully functional across all 24 time zones at the exact same time.
So that all sounds great, but how do we actually do it? Well, you execute what the source calls the Nomad protocol. This is the playbook, a simple 3-step process to achieve total freedom for your system.
It's pretty straightforward, but incredibly powerful. Step 1, do a decoupling audit. Go through every single process and ask, does this require someone to be somewhere? If the answer is yes, virtualize it. Step 2, go cloud native. Move everything, data, communication, even banking, to platforms that don't care where you are. Make physical trips totally obsolete. And step 3, and this is crucial, you have to test it. Go operate from a completely different time zone for a month. This is how you find all the hidden dependencies, all the little static bugs, and you fix them until the system is truly 100% location independent.
So, what's the end goal of all this? What does it look like when you succeed? You achieve something called systemic ubiquity. It's a total identity shift. You stop being a resident of a city, and you become a node in a global network.
This right here, this is the new standard of excellence. Ask yourself this question: could you pack up your entire operation and move it to another continent tomorrow without missing a beat, without losing a single penny of revenue? That is the real test of a powerful, anti-fragile 21st century empire.
And I want to leave you with this final mindset shift. It completely reframes everything. You're not traveling for a vacation. You're making strategic moves. When you operate this way, every change in location is a redeployment of a key asset, you. You're not a tourist. You're a commander, moving pieces on a global chessboard.
So we end up right back where we started, with a big question for you to really think about. After all this, take a hard, honest look at what you're building. Is it a true global asset designed for freedom and mobility? Or, without even realizing it, have you just been building a bigger, more comfortable cage for yourself? The answer to that question will define your entire future.
All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a completely new mental model, a new operating system, really, for high performers who are looking for true, unadulterated global freedom. Now, this isn't about just, working from a beach. This is about re-architecting your entire life so you can operate on a global scale, completely unbound by any single physical location. And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the core problem, doesn't it? So many of us are running these incredible, powerful modern empires, but we're doing it on old, outdated hardware, our fixed physical location. The world today, it operates in the cloud. It demands flexibility, mobility, and a totally new way of thinking. So let's get into the heart of the issue, what our source material calls the single most restrictive bug in our mental software, the static infrastructure delusion. This is the foundational error we've got to patch. So what exactly is this delusion? It's the deep-seated belief that stability comes from a mortgage, from a fixed address, from being tied to one city. But in today's world, that's not stability at all. It's actually a critical vulnerability. It creates what's called systemic friction, and it slows you down when everything else is moving at the speed of light. This is exactly where we have to refactor our core beliefs. The old model says stability is a mortgage. Wrong. The new reality is that true stability comes from modular mobility, the ability to adapt and move without losing a single ounce of momentum. You're not just living in a house anymore. You're operating from the cloud. You're shifting from a simple physical presence to systemic ubiquity, where your entire system just works, no matter what your GPS coordinates say. So, what happens when you're caught in that static delusion? Well, you end up in a cage that you built yourself. Let's talk about how to escape the proximity trap. The proximity trap is a fatal error in high-performance psychology. It's this idea that your business, your team, your whole operation relies on people being in the same room at the same time to get anything meaningful done. Honestly, it's a 19th century command and control model trying to survive in the 21st century. It means if the leader isn't physically there, everything just grinds to a halt. And this trap has very real consequences. First, there's operational drag. Your energy gets wasted on physical logistics, like office leases and commutes, instead of focusing on global strategy. Then, you've got time zone dependency. Your growth is literally capped by a single 8-hour workday. And finally, systemic rigidity. You can't just pivot to a massive opportunity in another part of the world because you are physically locked down. This is a tough one to swallow. It really forces you to ask, is your success real? Or is it just perfectly optimized for one tiny corner of the globe? Are you actually building a global empire, or are you just building a really nice, high-paying job inside a cage you made yourself?
Okay, so how do we break free? The answer is shifting to a whole new layer of operation. Let's get into the asynchronous blueprint.
The digital Nomad OS is the absolute core of this blueprint. It's the tool set for becoming what the source material calls the invisible architect. You see, a truly robust system is asynchronous. It runs on clear protocols and systems, not on everyone being in the same room. This is the foundation of elite, high performance on a global level.
And this brings up a crucial distinction. We are not talking about remote work. We are talking about something much deeper, systemic decoupling. This is where every single part of your life and your business is detached from any single physical location. You don't just travel for a vacation anymore. You redeploy yourself strategically, moving your entire operation to season advantage. It is a completely different ballgame.
Here it is, the essential mental shift. Your office is not a building. It is not a desk. Your true office is your mind, your neural OS. And when you finally internalize that, that's when you unlock what's called strategic freedom, the ability to make those elite-level moves because you are no longer tied to a physical space. So once we get the blueprint, it's time to turn these ideas into a concrete, executable protocol. It's time to build your Nomad engine. So how do you actually do it? The protocol is 3 steps. First, a decoupling audit. You go through everything and virtualize every single physical dependency. Second, you build cloud-native infrastructure. Move your banking, your data, your communications to global platforms. And finally, mobility testing. You operate from a completely different time zone for a month. Why? To find the static bugs, to find what breaks your system, and then fix it until it's absolutely seamless. And when you implement this protocol, something really profound happens. This isn't just about changing your logistics, it's a fundamental shift in your identity. You become the invisible architect. This is the transformation right here. You stop being a resident of a city and you become a node in a global network. You evolve from a tethered architect tied to a location into an invisible architect whose influence is everywhere, but whose location is totally irrelevant. You go from being locally optimized to systemically ubiquitous. And this is the ultimate goal. This is the definition of true freedom, of true sovereignty in the 21st century. To build a system, your life, your business, so robust, so well-designed that it's completely independent of geography. That, right there, is the power of the digital Nomad OS. So with this new operating system installed, there's really only one question left to answer. The world is no longer a map of constraints. It's a network of opportunities. Where will you redeploy next?
All right, if you're a high performer, listen up. The biggest bug in your entire operating system, it's probably not your mindset or your habits. It's the belief that your physical location is a source of stability. The thing is, that's actually a huge system vulnerability, and we're going to show you exactly how to patch it for good. Okay, let's just do a hard reset on our thinking right now. The whole idea of being settled, it feels safe, doesn't it? You know, a house, an office, a city you know like the back of your hand. But in a world where everything else moves at light speed, being stuck in one place is literally the single greatest point of failure you can have. You're not settled. You're just a sitting duck for the chaos of a single location.
So, what exactly is this vulnerability? We call it the static infrastructure bug. And just think about it like this. You're trying to run a cutting-edge global operation, right? But your whole system is built like a desktop app from like 1998. It only works if you're physically sitting right there in front of it. It's just a completely outdated model in a world that's gone cloud native.
And at the very heart of this is a delusion. It's this belief we've all been sold, that stability and real success are tied to a physical address, that getting a mortgage means you're secure. But honestly, it's a huge failure in systems thinking, and it's the bug that holds so many high performers back from ever reaching a true global scale.
Okay, this slide lays it out perfectly. You've got two paths here. Over on the left, you have the tethered architect. I mean, these people build incredible empires, but they're bolted down to one city. Their power requires their physical presence. But then, on the right, you see the global outlier. Their power comes from mobility. They don't need a physical building because they've achieved systemic ubiquity, which is just a way of saying their system is everywhere at once, totally accessible from the cloud.
All right, so we've put a name to the bug. Now, let's get real about the costs. This next part is all about being trapped by proximity and the huge, often hidden costs of being optimized for just one little area when you have an entire global playing field waiting for you.
And this is what we call the proximity trap. Your system is fragile. I mean, really fragile. If its most important functions absolutely depend on people needing to be in the same place at the same time. Think about it. If the leader isn't there, if the office gets shut down for some reason, the value creation just stops, dead in its tracks. That isn't a system. That's a cage, a self-built cage.
And believe me, this trap has some very real, very painful consequences. First, there's operational drag. Your mental energy is constantly being sucked up by physical logistics instead of high-level strategy. Second, you've got time zone dependency. Your operation can only make moves during the 8 or so hours you happen to be awake in one specific spot. And finally, systemic rigidity. You're locked in, literally and metaphorically, unable to pivot when new opportunities pop up somewhere else.
I mean, think about this for a second. It's such a powerful way to reframe things. You might think you're successful, but are you really? Or are you just perfectly optimized for, say, a 5-mile radius around your office? Because without that global, location-independent protocol, your so-called empire is really just a high-end job you've built for yourself, a job you can never, ever leave.
Okay, so the problem is crystal clear. The next logical question, the most important one, is how do we fix it? How do you actually break free and decouple your ability to create value from a specific set of GPS coordinates?
Well, the solution? It all starts with a major shift in your thinking. You have to adopt what we call the asynchronous blueprint. And what that means is building your entire operation to run on a clear set of rules and documented systems on protocol, not on the messy need for people to be physically close to each other.
And look, let's be super clear here. We are not talking about remote work. Remote work is just being tethered to a digital leash instead of a physical one. We're talking about something way deeper, systemic decoupling. This is about a complete refactoring, a total redesign of your system so that it runs at peak efficiency, no matter where you or anyone on your team happens to be on the planet.
And this requires you to upgrade your entire vocabulary. In this new mindset, you don't just travel anymore. You strategically redeploy yourself as an asset. And your office? It's not a building. Your office is your neural OS. It's that system of knowledge and processes you carry around in your head, accessible wherever you are.
Okay, so the philosophy is all well and good, but how do you actually build this thing? The answer is a super practical 3-step engine that we call the Nomad protocol. This is the tactical how-to for creating a truly global, location-independent existence.
So here they are, the 3 core steps to basically engineer your own freedom. First, you run a decoupling audit to find and just get rid of all your physical chains. Second, you build a cloud-native infrastructure for your wealth and your data so they exist completely independent of any single location. And third, you do a real-world systemic mobility test to prove that your new system can actually handle it. All right, let's break each one down. So, step 1, the decoupling audit. You have to go on a hunt, relentlessly track down every single process, every task, every system that requires you to physically be somewhere. And once you find them, you virtualize them. That means using automation, creating crystal clear standard operating procedures, SOPs, and leaning heavily on asynchronous tools like Slack and Notion, so work gets done without you having to be there. Next up, step 2 is all about building your cloud-native infrastructure. This means moving everything, your banking, your data, your communications, your entire wealth system, to platforms and even jurisdictions that do not require you to physically show up. The whole goal here is to force your system to rely on strong, repeatable protocols, not on weak, unreliable proximity. And finally, step 3,
the real test, systemic mobility testing. I mean, theory is one thing, right? But the only way to know for sure if your system is truly decoupled is to stress test it. Go somewhere else. Operate from a completely different time zone for 30 days straight. And here's the most critical rule. If something breaks, you've just found a static bug. You don't panic and fly home. You stay put and you refactor the system on the fly until it works perfectly from anywhere.
Now, when you actually pull this off, when you implement this protocol, something huge happens. You go through a fundamental identity shift, and this is the ultimate goal, to become a global node. You stop being just a resident of one city, trapped by a lease, and you evolve into a key point in your own distributed global network.
And this really is the core command here. Stop defining yourself by an address. You have a high bandwidth mind. It is time to stop letting a desk limit your horizon. Start operating as a strategic, mobile node that can plug into any opportunity anywhere in the world.
So, if you are truly ready to build a location-independent empire, here's your next move. Make sure you're subscribed for more deep dives from UnordinaryMind. And if you want the tactical checklist we've built for this whole process, just comment Nomad below, and we'll get it to you. It's time to stop being a prisoner of your own success. It's time to master the digital Nomad OS.